Hey everybody, I'm Cafe Kaz. This is going to be the second ever Rengar's Roundtable podcast. Okay, you already know me, but I want to give a moment to everybody else introduce themselves here once if you want to take it away.
Hello. Hi. My name is OnceInLuv. Nice to see you guys. I stream Epic 7 once a week. I do stream every single day on Twitch, but mostly Summoners War content. But I have been playing since day one, so I do have a lot of experience in the game.
And what's up, guys? I'm back. I'm Shotgun Shogun. You'll get to know me since I'm going to be on most of these unless there's a vacation of some sort. You'll see that I'm wearing the hoodie. It's because earlier I was out getting my train on. I was doing my Rocky montage for the RTA tournament that is going to be coming up this weekend. But yeah, I YouTube and I stream when I stream. That's usually how that goes.
Yeah, I think actually, now that you mention it, I think we're all going to be on the Epic 7 Festa as well this Saturday.
That's correct.
I'll be duking it out with OnceInLuv in the trivia section. You know,
nice.
Flexing.
I still have to finish chapter 2.
Oh, true.
I have 3 days to finish the whole story.
Yeah.
Hey, at least it'll be super fresh in your mind.
Yeah, but I have to grind through all the AP shops to get all the side lore.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Thankfully, it's a lot easier for me. I just have to fight people in RTA, which I have been hitting the lab real hard the last week and a half, and I am it'll be interesting. It's definitely I've switched up my drafting quite a bit. You can ask Kaz and Deity about that one.
Yeah, you've been pulling out a lot of new toys recently, but on the topic of new toys, that transitions into our first podcast topic of the day. With all the new MLs that people are getting because they traded away their champion Zeratos, I wanted to know, have any new 4-stars caught your eye? Now, this doesn't have to strictly be ML units. I know when it gets over to my turn, I'm going to, name a 4-star that's captured my heart recently, but... have you seen anything that you previously underrated or, anything that you now want to build and try out?
I got a few, but once I'll let you go. I'll let you feel this first.
I don't think so. To be perfectly honest, I don't think there's any 4-stars that I have wanted to build that I didn't want to build before.
Really?
I think the only unit that I've reconsidered building over and over is Green Rin, maybe.
Yeah, I've seen Green
just for the strip and defense break, but at the same time with ML Rins changed, I might as well just use that instead.
True, plus then you get the immunity and stuff like that too. For me, I was so wrong before about ML Surin. Actually, I was previously an ML Surin disbeliever, and I had only really seen a couple of people playing around with her, but now that people have traded away for her, they're putting premium gear on her, plus 30 Alexa's baskets. It's the bane of my existence, right?
Oh yeah. That's who I was gonna transition into if you didn't, is ML Surin, because as somebody who doesn't like fighting against control players, the fact that she just gets that CR push, gets the stealth, and just does absolutely nutty amounts of damage is huge. I actually just plus 15 mine today, and yeah, I played around with her a little bit earlier, moved some gear around. I've been testing her out throughout the day. There's a couple pieces I still have to upgrade, but yeah, no, she is really good, and she's very safe. She's a very safe DPSer just because of the CR push, the stealth. I mean, we all know that unless you're bringing something to knock characters out of stealth, stealth OP, Akali, for example. Kaz, I know how you feel about that one, but I think that, obviously both me and you, Kaz, agree that Broman was a huge pickup that I actually think a lot of people slept on because everybody traded in Champ Zerato for Singelica just to counter RB in Guild Wars and Arena.
Yeah, Broman's OP, actually. Some of the scariest first picks now that I see are Broman. right? Because what do I do as a control player versus a benevolent Roman? I feel like as soon as I see that, I'm immediately on the back foot, right? It's like, what do you do to deal with it? And I've even beaten like Rowanas with Broman because it just doesn't matter, right?
Although I will say, when you slam out that Broman S3 and not a single person gets silenced or stunned from the crown, it's just like, well, just have fun laughing at me while I just feel bad over here.
Yeah, it's pretty tragic, but that's why I use him in my control comps, right? Because then I can just put everybody to sleep or stun them up right after. I'm mainly using him as a stripper, but every single game he's felt pretty disgusting. There's another unit actually that I like a lot recently that I've seen another content creator using, which is Green Armin. Okay, and now I know people. You said you don't like Green Armin?
I hate Green Armin because the playstyle of Green Armin is let me just take the match to Battle Frenzy 7. Like, what is even the point of playing the game if you're gonna do that?
Wait. But what if she wasn't? So when I
fought Green Armin 6 times in the meta, every single time the person's picked Crow Ruel, FCC, Rowana, and Green Armin, and I'm just like, this is the most boring match I've ever played in my life.
So I've been theory crafting running her into my control comps, and it's only because she does so much by herself, right? I don't run knights. I think if you see me play, you'll rarely see me ever draft a knight. I draft like FCC and Falcon or Clarice sometimes. But Armin's like, she's an Aureus and an Adamant, and she has Mischance debuff, and she has poison, and she has a heal, and she has a barrier. She has
the stun too on her S1.
Yeah, and the stun.
I feel like for your playstyle though, like Troublemaker Crozette's way more like you. Because it's like you get the hard stun, and then you also get 40% damage mitigation on a single unit. Like, I can't imagine there's a single knight that fits your style more than Troublemaker. Because it's just every single turn you stun somebody.
I don't have Troublemaker Crozette.
You don't have one, or have you built one?
I don't have it.
Should have traded for it.
I needed Broman.
He needed that Broman, yeah.
There's too many. All the new ML 4-star units, I don't have them yet. But also, I did see an interesting interaction with Troublemaker Crozette. So, you know how he pulls away 40% damage? One of my friends has been using him with ML Surin, right? So she needs to drop below 70%, right? But she can only take 51% at a time. With Troublemaker Crozette in the front, she takes just over 30% damage, only. Like, because the damage transfer happens, so she only takes that little bit of damage and then pops her passive, and then she can pop off. It's pretty disgusting. It takes like 4 hits to kill her at that point, too.
Yeah, that's actually pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, I slept on ML Surin the first time I saw her, and I think she, with a greater attack buff proc on the first turn, she one-shot my Fire Tenab at 15k HP, 1.3k defense. Yeah. She one-shot me, and I was like, okay, well, I'm never doing that again.
That's exactly what happened to me, right? Because all my units are like that medium, like they're not bulky, but they're not like 0 HP, and they just get blown up instantaneously. It's like it's the weirdest thing. I don't know how she does so much damage, actually.
Well, greater attack buff is really all it is. Greater attack buff does like 40% more damage than Portrait does.
Really?
Well, that's why people run greater attack buff on RB.
Oh,
like, if you didn't run basket, you would never kill anything, right?
Okay, true, fair. Yeah, and the percentage is pretty high too. 40% is nothing to sleep on, right? I just I don't have enough baskets.
Greater attack buff is too strong.
But I think it's kind of cool that people are focusing more on the 4-star units, at least for the past week, right? Because I've seen a lot of people talking about, what are you trading for? What do you build? Like I said, I've seen people picking up old units that haven't seen much play, and I think it's really, really nice just to see them around. Though I did look at Green Armin's mole investment, and if I wanted to fully invest in her, I do need 14, so it's going to be a little bit harder, but I'll take that as a transition into the next topic. So now that we have the friendship system going on, right, a weird thing happened where some of my units they were already like plussed and stuff, all my supports and stuff. They already had the Molagora that they needed for their supports and things like that. So I ended up investing more into damage, right? And I noticed now I can kind of like, I can kill things a little bit better, right? I don't miss kills as often as I get more of those damage molas. And I wanted to know kind of y'all's opinion on the friendship system now that we've had some more time on it, and if you think we'll ever reach a plus 15 meta, because I know myself, I've had times where I miss like a kill on a champion Zerato, he's 1 HP when I skill 1 him with my Cerise, and then I immediately slam some Molagoras into that, right? Because I don't want that situation to happen, right? And I feel like if we get into like a tournament setting or something like that, you know, you'll want to have your units all busted out, right? But we're constantly dealing with this, like, do we have enough Molas to plus 15 everything? So yeah, that's the question. Do you think there'll ever be a plus 15 meta?
Yes.
Short answer.
Just straight up yes.
Just short answer, yes.
I mean, realistically, at, you know, the higher tiers of competitive play, you know, like you said, you know, if you, let's say that Crow lives with 10 hit points because your DN didn't do enough damage because you don't have the molas into her S1, and then he horses you and then the game's over. Like, that's one of the things, you know, that I've always kind of been like, yeah, I want to plus 15 everything because I don't want that crowd to live. I don't want that Oxlots to live, you know, with that small amount of hit points. And when I know when the friendship system came out, a lot of people were like, bro, I don't even care about my Tamron S1. This is 3 Molagoras wasted. And it's like, well, technically it's not, because, you know, whatever, regardless of that whole conversation. But I think that going and kind of dissing on the system just because you now can put more into some of your supports, I think is really silly, because, you know, yeah, if you want to be a super high tier competitive player, yeah, plus 15 is the dream, right?
Mm-hmm. I actually fought a Cerise the other day. It was a plus 15 Cerise, and it 1v1'd my Ray. Because my Ray's not molded, right? Now, I do believe that Ray can function on plus 3, right? But in the 1v1 versus Cerise, I couldn't handle that extra damage output, and it was literal, like small amounts of HP difference that kind of decided that match, right? So it's pretty ridiculous just that, you know, he could get that much out of her. That additional combat readiness he gained every single turn from her S1, like the damage on the S3, S2, even on miss, was just ridiculous. Especially going down to friends.
It's more notable on units of turn cycle, right? Mm-hmm. Units of turn cycle will always benefit more out of the extra damage molas. Like if you have a 190 speed Ray that doesn't have any turn gain, it's not going to be nearly as beneficial as your Cerise at 290 speed that gets 50% CR on skill 2 and 15% CR on skill 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like when I say yes, I mean yes in the sense of like it really comes down to, is the design of the game going to be every single unit we release is insanely strong and at minimum needs plus 12 molas? If it is, then no, we will never reach that point. Mm-hmm. If it's not, if we get a long enough spacing between units, or we get strong enough units that are like good, but they're not like, you literally have to build this or you lose the game. Like if the power creep isn't so bad, crossing my fingers on that, then yeah, we could reach a plus 15 meta, because a lot of things in the game don't really get outbalanced to the point where like we stop using so and so, right? Like
yeah,
FCC has been good in the game since her release, and that hasn't changed, right? She's always been a good viable plus 15. Lilius has always been a good viable plus 15, right? Arby has been a good viable plus 15 since his first buff, right? Even with the nerf they gave him, like he's still insanely good. A lot of these units will just remain good at plus 15 and are worth building. The only thing is like you're wondering like, are we going to plus 15 all of our supports? Probably not, unless your support is like insanely broken. Like Ruel's could be very well plus 15 because that unit will never fall out.
Yeah, I have seen a lot of plus 15 Ruels. I guess it's more of a... And I'm actually working on plus 15ing my Fallen Cecilia. I put it off for a very, very long time. But, like, again, I keep missing kills, right? Every single time I would miss a kill on skill 3, I'd be like, that 25% damage that I don't have on S3. You know, I need that. And I agree. We don't really get out-balanced, you know, that bad. It is just really a time of, like... You know, if we have enough time to put in our Molagoras into our units. And I actually really, really like the new friendship system, and the fact that while it's taking me a very, very long time to farm it out, we can slowly get that extra 3 mola on every single unit. And I think it's helping out a lot. Just because I can go back to some of my units. I remember I made a list a little while ago, and I needed like 158 molas to finish the units that I wanted to finish, and so this just alleviated so much across that list, because right, it was like 12, 13 units that I needed that on, right, and it just pulled all the stress away.
I try not to make lists like that because then it just makes me sad, and then I complain about MOAs on stream more often.
True. Now, we have had some time. We talked about how units don't kind of get power crept. Now, this is just on her release. We mentioned her last time, but what are your final thoughts on ML Iseria? I know she's the hot topic. I get like 10 questions about it a day. Kaz, what do you think about Briar Witch Iseria? So what's y'all's opinions now that people have actually played with her, right?
I don't think that we've had enough time, honestly.
Really?
I think that I've ran up against a couple up in Legend that absolutely just destroyed me.
In RTA or in Arena?
In RTA. I don't do Arena. Yeah, so like I think that it's still kind of working its way out. I mean, still is like the same thing with like Fiend, right? As soon as she came out, everybody said she was doo-doo. Then like a week later, everybody still said she was doo-doo. Then it's like you start seeing people, like Suck and like Darkness and a few other people up in like Legend RTA that just have these real nutty Fiends. I mean, I personally run Fiend, and not even just against Basar. Pretty much I can use it against any debuff team, or sometimes I'll even use her against a like a Spec Tenny just for the AoE and control lockdown and burn and stuff like that. But I think that it's a little early. I think that ML Iseria is in a weird spot where everybody wants to build her as a cleaver, and if she doesn't cleave as well as other already established cleavers, but at the same time, they'll use her. I think she's actually a decent opener for the debuff and the follow-up. She's in a state like Elfelt, right, where she's a debuffing support DPS, but everybody looks at her numbers and goes, this is hot garbage. This other unit can do this debuff and also this other thing, and you see that with a lot of characters. Or they'll say, well, she needs this entire team to work around her, and I'm like, wow, it's really weird that this is a team-based game, right? Yeah. So I think that in like maybe, I don't know, a month or so, you'll find somebody who just finds whatever it is that clicks, and then it'll be Deity because he is on a mission to make her work. So I think that that's a big thing with a lot of characters in this game, is that the initial go-to is this character is hot garbage, but then after a while and enough play testing, somebody figures out how to use it, and then all of a sudden it's OP, or they buff it, like a Tywin, who was good-ish. He was decent before. I used him a lot, and then they buffed him, and now he's the most ridiculous thing in the entire game.
Once, have you seen Deity's counter by Iseria?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's an interesting build on her, just because it allows her to be bulkier, right? Because she doesn't have that self-protection. When you talk about Elfeld, I think the interesting thing is that I still haven't seen but one person use her effectively. Which
and I know we're talking about the same person.
That random guy, he's just so... It just seems so powerful when he uses her, but everybody else just doesn't do anything.
Well, he also drafted the whole team around the Elfeld.
Yes, the entire team is Elfeld.
Right? Yeah. You can pick any one pocket unit that's like okay if you build the whole team around it, right?
Yeah.
So like I can pick any random ass 3, like I could be the guy who picks Adley, right? And if I build the whole team around the Adley, it looks really good and it makes a lot of sense, but that doesn't make the unit good.
Yeah.
That just means that my gear is good enough to make that unit look good in this rank. And if it's in Legend, you have good gear and you build the whole team around it. And that's just how it is.
I think that I may have slightly misjudged by Iseria. I still don't think that she's good. Right? Contrary to public belief, I know everybody's trying to build her, everybody loves her design and stuff like that. I don't think she's like a spectacular unit, but I did run into a situation where somebody was cleaving me, and they were like doing like a half cleave, and I was like, okay, I need Remnant Violet, I need ML haste for his Arbiter Vildred, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna drop K-Ron as well so that he can't cleave me, and he just put an ML Iseria on the table, and I was just like, he just countered 3 of my units with 1. I need to stop that, right? There's nothing I can do about that unit. And so I think that it's interesting that they mix such different, I guess, like, debuffs. The fact that she strips, unbuffable, and she has a little bit of increased hit chance. I don't think that she's spectacular, but she's not bad either. She'll maybe find a place somewhere in the future, even if it's like as a niche counter.
So you brought it up, deities specifically. I think deities would be good if he drafted differently. I think the build he has on it is fine, but with the playstyle of his actual gameplay, I don't think it's good or it works. And the reason I say that is because he runs a bruiser counter sort of Judgment Iseria with no knights. He runs 1 knight on occasion and it almost always gets banned. Yeah. So what happens is like 90% of the time, his Iseria just gets 1 shot on the first turn, so it doesn't actually matter. Mm-hmm. But if he ran 2 knights with it, the bulk is like, do I hit the Iseria or do I take the debuffs? Right? Because you're not going to one-shot it if there's like a Fallen Cecilia and a Lilius, or if there's like a Rose and a Fallen Cecilia, right?
Yeah, I know he's been trying to test her out and try to see like what comps that she would work in. But yeah, I think I agree that it would work better in a bulkier account, maybe on that counter build.
Well, the thing is, I think if you're playing a counter build and you're slower, you have to have some sort of damage mitigation because everyone does so much damage, right? Soul burns or like even just like first turn attack buffs are so significant. Like that guy, the 2 people that I saw him play it against, where he like picked 1 knight and got banned, the guy just instantly called him, like without anything. It's just because it one shots if you don't have any mitigation. Right? Yeah, I firmly believe that ML Iseria came out at the wrong time. If she came out before RV, she would have been the most hype unit in the game because she would have been amazing for Arena Rush. Everyone would have picked her up. Everyone would have built her. It would have been like, finally, no more fat cat meta. And then because RV's out, no one really wants her for Arena because RV is on every single defense. And then in RTA, it's just like, I want her to be a damage dealer, but she doesn't do enough. It's like, I want her to be a support, but like she doesn't have any actual, like, so strip utility in this game comes around from you strip, plus you have to have some sort of control. Buff block is not really control. Like for example, with Broman has silence, right? Bassar has pushback.
Yeah.
Right. Dizzy just does everything. And then they have crown, right? Rangers don't have crown, so there's no like immediate first turn threat when you strip and apply debuffs that aren't silence, freeze, stun, sleep.
Yeah.
Right. So like, what are you going to actually do with her? You have to have something that follows up really quick, and you have speed RNG. So if you run something that's too close, then you take the risk of either like outspeeding it in the wrong direction, or you have to like force a specific speed gap between your units, right? And that's the reason why I feel like strippers that aren't attack bar pushing, attack bar reducing, or like hard CCing are just not good, right? Like Athletic is good because she attack bar pushes. If she didn't attack bar push, she'd be useless. Right, Cerise at least has the slow debuff, so it's like kind of there, but it's still not quite the same, right? Because if you're contesting someone in a speed game with Cerise, they're 285 or 280, you're 290. Even if you strip them, their unit's still probably going to go unless you have something extremely fast to follow up, right?
That's the reason why I didn't want ML by Iseria. I like that you use the word control because a lot of people were coming to me, like I said, asking me what I thought about ML Iseria because they thought that she would fit really well into my control comps, and that was the main problem, is that like why would I use her over like Broman or F Liddy or Bassar or somebody, right? Because she doesn't provide that extra oomph, right? So I would have to give her super premium speed gear and then fit her somewhere into the team. Like I was looking at it and I would need her to be like 270, like just straight up 270 speed, because she doesn't have any like control inside of her kit. I have Mui as a free unit at 250 because she can strip or stun, so she wants to go after my F Liddy, and you know she does a lot inside of her kit. But with ML by Iseria, I was just kind of like, well, where do you fit in here, and do I have a 270 set that I want to give you, right? And the answer for me was no.
Yeah, and so the other thing that's like relevant with that too, like the difference between like Mui, because people always ask me that. They're like, how do I use Mui? Like, how do I use, you know, Iseria? Like in the comparison between the two, like as strippers, the thing is like Iseria is either damage dealer or stripper. Mui is strip, control, and setup. She does all 3 at once really well, because even though her strip doesn't have hard CC on it or like attack bar push, it has an attack buff, right? And alternatively, if you run someone ahead of her, you can just stun people right away, right? Even though she does have the warrior, disadvantage in my opinion, because
Yeah,
the
she
best
was a
artifacts
mage.
are mages, knights,
Yeah.
and then thieves. Like no contest. The mages have the best artifacts in the game. Attica Scepter is probably second best to Abyssal Crown just because of RNG, and then you follow it up with Sierra Ren and Elas, and then you look at knights and you have Adamant Aureus, which is the least fun combination of interactions in the game. It's just like slap down the Annie fun if you really want to. It's like Old Carmen, right? Old
Yeah.
Carmen was just one unit that had both.
It's actually kind of sad that there aren't enough good warrior artifacts. I know in a lot of my warriors I end up using like neutral artifacts. Like on my Mui I run Oath Key, right? Because there was no real warrior support for her, so I was kind of just like, you know what, I want to hit red units and Remnant Violet a little bit better, so I tossed in an Oath Key.
All the artifacts for warriors are really selfish, right? All of them are just like designed for whatever unit they came out with, or they're designed for like these solo potential units, right? Sacred Scythe with Durandal, right? And then when you look at like the specific unit ones, we have things like Merciless Glutton, we have Cradle of Life, which is completely useless.
Yeah, I don't know what Cradle of Life
Champions Trophy is literally for one unit. Circus Fantasia is like, it's okay if you really need the effectiveness, but at the same time, you might as well just build the gear on it and run Draco Plate.
Yeah.
It's just all of the artifacts for knights are extremely like selfish. None of them provide any utility to the team, which is why, for the most part, like when you look at a Mui build, you're like, it doesn't matter what artifact I put on this, it doesn't change the build.
Yeah.
Right. When you look at knights, like the artifact you put on the knight totally changes your build. If you're running a Bastion, if you're running an Aureus, if you're running an Adamant Shield, right? Damage dealer knights almost always run the Adamant Shield because you don't want them to take the extra damage. Whereas like a hard tank knight can very well use Aureus or the Bastion of Perlucia, or the new FCC or the new Cecilia artifact that's coming out, right? You just have more options, right? Like if you're really fast, you can run Alex Lance, you can run Steadfast Gatekeeper. You just have all these different like potential artifacts that really make a huge difference to your build. Whereas like with warriors, it's like you know exactly how that unit's built and it's never going to change.
Yeah, I'm hoping
even with mages you can do that too, right? Like you can have super fast mages on like any artifact. You can have super slow mages on almost any artifact.
I'm hoping that they do release more. I guess warrior support is, and I didn't even know that I wanted it until having this discussion. But I really hope that they do release more as unilateral warrior artifacts in the future that can kind of help to support the team. Even though I guess like warriors are supposed to be DPS, but there's such a wide range of like warriors at this point that I feel that they need more support. Now, you did mention that you don't like the Double Knight Adamant Aureus team, so I do have a question. With that being said, what is your favorite playstyle? Or what playstyle do you like to see the most?
The playstyle that I like to see the most?
Yeah, either that you like to play yourself or that you like to see in action.
I like to see CC countercleave. So I like to see people who can cut a cleave and CC the enemy. I think that's the most impressive playstyle because it's the hardest. You have to build specifically to counter certain units, and you have to fit the right artifacts as well as the right like HP thresholds and stuff. So like ML Cern makes it a lot easier because you can kind of just like cut and just like nuke people. But that's not what I mean. What I mean is like cutting in between people's things by using things like Hilly's Lance or Steadfast Gatekeeper. So I run a 258 Lilius, but 2 weeks ago I was running a 270 speed Lilius on Steadfast Gatekeeper, and she cut like 90% of cleaves, and I just won instantly on turn 1 because of it. Right? I'd let everyone's Athletic through it, everyone's Cerise through it, just instantly win. Because she skilled 3s, and then you're just fine, right? Holiday Euphina is a good example for that now too. Holiday Euphina 260, 270 will almost always work for that, right? Broman kind of has it built into his passive where he can't be pushed back, but he doesn't have the like exact setup, so it's more like of an RNG setup. But that's the kind of playstyle that I really like to see and I like to play. But I think that for me, it's really like I like most playstyles. I really, really hate watching people pick 3 knights and 2 soul weavers. I think it's just really boring because I get it, right? If you want to win, you win. You play the way you want to play. I don't want to watch it because I don't want to watch every match go to Battle Frenzy 6, Battle Frenzy 7. I think that mechanics like Kraus skill 3 and like Dark Corvus skill 3 are just like really anti-fun, and they kind of ruin all the for me, they've ruined a lot of the Guild Wars defense aspect of the game because those units exist. There's 90% of things you just can't build on defense because you might as well just horse everybody and you might as well just Dark Corvus everybody.
Yeah.
Right. Even ML Hayes skill 3 is like getting to that level of like, wow, this is pretty anti-fun. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I love my ML Hayes because he's insanely good. I have not lost a single Guild Wars offense with him yet.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I sit there and I realize the reason I'm using him so much is because he's just so easy and so boring to use. Right? Every time I see like a something RB something, it's just Lilius RB ML haste. I haven't lost yet.
So that triple knight, or even four knight, and they call it the four horsemen now, or quad knight soul weaver, triple knight soul weaver, is one of the most popular comps right now. People like to tank and spank in RTA. I don't know what popularized it. I'm assuming that it was code. Yeah. I'm assuming that it was code, because he hit number 1 and he's like, tank it out. You win.
Actually, it's not because of his rank that popularized it. The most
Really?
important aspect of his team that made it so popular is the fact that all of his units are slower than like 200 speed. Because
Oh,
it
so
makes
it
it
looks
look more
achievable,
obtainable.
but it's
Like
not.
as a free to play player or like a lower rank player, you're like, wow, I don't have to make a 230 speed RV. I can actually play the game. And you're like, well, not really. Like,
Yeah, the
because
stats.
I see all these people build codes teams and play against me with them, and it's just like, you are so squishy that it doesn't matter.
Mhm.
Like, I don't care if your crowd's 25k HP, if he's not also 150 effect resist at minimum, I'm going to kill it in one turn every single time, right? Like I showed you my Alencia yesterday because we were talking about Guild Wars defense. The reason I run her on that speed is because she's speed tuned to move exactly before my MLR, and it's because all those knight players who run that will always lose to that because the MLR is like 180 effectiveness.
Mhm. Yeah, that's the thing. It was so weird. Like when I would fight like code lights, and they would just blow up instantaneously. They either didn't have the resistance, so they got CC'd, or they didn't have the defense, so they just got shredded. Right? Didn't matter that you had 25k HP, or they were just like squishy overall. I think that my favorite place. Well, you already know what my favorite play style is. I like to control. Okay, I'm trying to push the boundary. Okay, I'm always in the lab. You can always see me live, like tinkering and trying to figure out what else I need to add to the team, what other units I want to kind of add in to make the control better. Because there are times when my enemy slips out, right? And I don't want that to happen in a tournament setting. I entered a tournament recently, and I tried to make sure that everything was tight, that I could make up for any mishaps that would happen, not proccing
And
certain skills.
15%.
Yeah, and the 15%, it's just like you're constantly fighting against that. And that's why I liked Remnant Violet a lot too. Even though he's very RNG, I don't know, the RNG makes it fun for me.
I think that's
Right.
actually what makes him good. The threat of random is way stronger than the threat of guaranteed, right? So
Mhm.
like when we talk about Summoners War versus Epic 7, because you've watched me for years, so like we've talked about this many times. The most notable difference between Summoners War and Epic 7, attack bar system and AI. In this game, the AI is perfect, which means it's really easy to win on like against someone's non-live playstyle, right?
Mhm.
So like fighting someone in Guild Wars is always gonna be super easy because you know exactly what every single unit's gonna do and it never changes. Right? In Summoners War, when you go up against someone's Guild Wars defense, if that derps and your plan was for it to not derp, you might lose just outright on the first turn because of it.
Mhm.
And that's like kind of why the random RNG from RV is so good, because when you fight it, there's always the toss up. You're like, I have no idea if I'm gonna get deleted by some random hit or if it's gonna be like the worst timing ever, right? Like
Yeah.
before, it used to be like the RB was the worst timing ever, especially if you ran like Elbrus units into the RB. Like when RB was first buffed, people would always run like Elbrus Charles because it was strong, right? But then they would accidentally Elbrus the RB and he'd revive and kill the team. You'd be like, shit, because the random RNG, right? Like the random RNG is what would kill you.
Mm-hmm. It is really powerful, right? And I've had people try to go into my RV and try to miss, right, so that they could proc his skill 3 while they had some form of protection, and then like hit him, and then they're like, oh no, my invincibility's gone, or like it didn't work out,
I've done that a couple times with my FCCS 3. I'm just like, okay, he's got 4 charges. That's cool. We'll pop this. He'll just right into a skill nullifier. No, I hit him, and then right after is like a dizzy or something like that. So they just get rid of all my skill null, and then I just super fun times.
My favorite.
I actually changed
playstyle.
my mind about the playstyle. My favorite playstyle. I've only seen 2 people play this really well, but my favorite playstyle is every single unit on counter set.
I've never seen that before in my life.
There's one person who comes to my stream that their entire account is built on counter set, and their gear is nut. This guy has like
What?
209. This guy has like 200 I90s.
Is he
But
living
his
in
gear-
Banshees?
Oh yeah. This guy's gear is. This guy spends like $150 a day farming Banshee. His gear is so good though. Like his, it's not Hongyo either. It's someone else. Hongyo is nuts though. But this person, like you've seen my RB, right?
Mm.
Like, you remember so my RB is like 4.2k attack, 210 speed, 310 crit damage, with no imprints. This guy's counter RB on immunity is like 3.9, 300 crit damage, 200 speed with like 11k HP. I was like,
What the
I don't even know how
heck?
that's possible. Like,
Yeah, that's ridiculous, actually.
that is absolutely insane. It's like, remember the Dark Corvus we saw, the Korea server Dark
Yeah, the
Corvus?
280
It's
Dark
like, yeah,
Corvus.
yeah, you see things and you're just like, I didn't know that was possible. I
Yeah.
didn't know that was possible.
I
looked-
actually, after seeing that picture, I went and I tried to build that on my own Dark Corvus. I'm about 15 speed and 2k hit points away. So now that's my
Does
goal.
anyone have the same stats as D Corvus?
I mean, that's hard.
I've never
Any
checked
character?
my build there.
I'm not sure, actually, because I don't own Dark Corvus, so I don't know what sign he is. My favorite actual playstyle to watch, I guess, like shifting away, is something that my guildies created, which is like the slow cleave, because I've never seen it before, or before like joining the guild and kind of watching them play and stuff like that, because it was something that they invented on their own. They're just like, I want to use Rose, I want to do some bruiser action, and then you'll just see like FCC and Alencia one-shot an entire team because they have like 330 crit damage, and it's just like, it's so cool because when we were rushing to Legend, right, we were all like chilling in Discord, you know, streaming our matches and stuff like that, and you would just see people on the ladder who were drafting against them, no idea what was going on, who were drafting against them like they were going up against a tank team. They were happy, they were chilling, you know, minding their own business, and you just get cleaved. It looked like arena. Literally looked like they were arena cleaving people.
Is this the famous 300 crit damage Dizzy cleave?
Yes, it is. It is. And Dizzy's just in there, and they're just like, yeah, I'm fine, I got Arbiter, Vildred, and then Dizzy soul burns you, and you're just gone. And I'm just
Yeah,
like,
your Vildred is gone, and then your Vildred's gone again with the skill 2.
yeah, it was just disgusting. I think it's really cool when people push the boundaries like that. Stuff like that Dark Corvus, right? Stuff like this counter guy who I didn't even know about, and kind of, you know, push the limits of their units and try out new builds and stuff like that, because it could be ridiculous. Like I wouldn't try damage Dizzy. I mean, when I was a nub, I used to run attack neck on her. I was like, oh, the attack scaling on her skill 3 is pretty good, you know, I'm gonna throw an attack neck on there for some extra damage, you know, because it missed. And then these guys push that to the boundary. They're like, yeah, it does a lot of damage, okay, it kills everything.
Right.
Honestly, I should build it. I have a triple as Dizzy. I might as well, right? She's free attack. Or like her imprints are
Wait.
like attack or attack.
Well, that's insane, actually.
And she's 18% attack.
Yeah.
Wait,
But
why,
yeah,
why does she have
that's
attack
why,
self-imprint? Is she supposed to be a damage dealer?
I think that's what they initially tried to do with her. That's why her modifier on her S3 was so high, to make up for the miss. And then a lot of people like theory crafted around that. That's why a lot of people at the beginning were like, "Oh, she's hot garbage for a damage dealer," things along those lines.
The thing is,
But,
she doesn't have any damage awakens.
Yeah,
Yeah, she
It's
doesn't,
weird.
yeah.
Yeah, because she's bizarre. She's basically bizarre stats.
but no, Kaz, what you were saying earlier about the slow cleave, that's actually probably one of my favorite. Well, actually, I like watching Control. I don't like playing against Control.
I don't think anybody likes playing
Like
against
my
Control.
favorite version to play. Like I play Four Horsemen, but my units are like you were saying. I have my 350 crit damage Alencia that's speed tuned perfectly to go right before my like 320 damage a Tywin. So you just go and it's like, there goes all of your immunity, there goes your buffs, and here comes, did you not learn anything from last time? And if anybody's still alive, they're stunned now. And then that's usually my favorite one to do. But I like watching you work on Control, just not against you.
Yeah, you've been fighting really hard against my Control recently. It's becoming harder to bog you down.
Well, I mean, hey, the more I get bullied, the more I have to come back and learn how to anti-bully. Actually, when I was first climbing last season, I would get bullied by Shuffle's Cleave all the time, which then I walked away and I built Adamant Shield Eaton. And then I built, literally I'm like, this person bullies me enough that I'm going to figure out how to not get bullied by this person anymore. So that's always fun. And then you just come back and then you toilet bowl them with a crazy Vivian.
Yeah, your Vivian does way too much damage actually, and that's the cool thing too, is that there are ways to beat other playstyles. Sometimes you do have to think out of the box, and sometimes you might need that Eaton. Even though
sometimes you just really have to like build for that person too.
Yes,
right?
Yeah, exactly. But
like beating you requires very specific units. I change my artifacts whenever I fight you. Because I know like if I run certain artifacts, I have a way better chance to win. But if I don't, then I lose. Because you run AoE control, Steadfast Gatekeeper is literally the best artifact in the game.
Yeah, it makes it so much harder to do my job. Because like some of my units, right, if I don't have Faith Athletica to push me up and a Steadfast Gatekeeper comes out of nowhere, it kind of just screws me over. And like I said,
I thought about a weird tech, and it was specifically because there was this one guy who runs Cerisa Athletica against me all the time and is super fast. But I thought about making an attack neck, attack ring Lilius, and then running her as my highest attack unit, running 2 Soul Weavers, and running double Idol's Cheer with the Steadfast Gatekeeper, just so I could cut the guy.
Wait, because I could blow them up?
Yeah, I could cut 30% on turn 1 if it was good enough, and I just wasn't sure if it was worth it or not. Because like you're building for that one guy, like maybe tournament wise it would be worth building that, but like I think on ladder that's a little too much.
That's actually what I do with my Little Queen Charlotte versus certain people. Is I have 2 Soul Weavers with Idol's Cheer and her S2 passive, the basically built-in Durandal, literally just pops her right to the front. I have her at about 200 speed. With both Idol's Cheer and her S2, I don't think I have ever not cut a Flitica and then just instantly deleted their threat. Unless it's obviously a Spectre Tenebria, but then I can't delete that threat. But regardless, yeah, it's actually pretty funny to watch.
I think tiering for certain people is more interesting as you get higher on the ladder, right? I think next season, the contest for Legend is going to be really, really insane. And there was actually a unit that I was looking at picking up that I was having a hard time building because she doesn't really have a place yet. I was looking at Melissa, right? I saw her recent buffs, so she has the Soul Burn, Ignore Effect Resistance on skill 3, and I was like, yo, she'd be great against Remnant Violet, because there are a lot of people that I fight that have these like 200 to 180 speed Remnant Violets, but then it's like, what speed do you put her at for the people that have 250 speed Remnant Violets? I saw a 270 speed Remnant Violet the other day, right? So it's like, it's kind of hard to have certain units in other places, but I think like if you are in a tournament setting, if you are fighting against certain people, if you catch me in a tournament, even though I'm rarely in them, and you tier against me, right, I could just get knocked out and lose, right? Could just all be over, right? Because I did fight that one guy, I was talking about it before, that ran Potion Vial Ruel, Stella Harper Rowana, and Crimson Seed Alencia, and there was nothing I could do against him. Right, it just completely shut me out. This was just randomly on the ladder, but imagine that in like a tournament setting, right, where I just got countered and I lost a round for free because now I can't control you anymore, right? There's nothing I can do.
4 timeless anchors.
Yeah, well, not the timeless anchors. So I have another question. Moving on to the next topic, and this question is a little bit different from the others. A lot of new players have been coming into the game recently, and I appreciate that Smilegate has been doing more advertisement recently. I've seen advertisements on like Crunchyroll. We've got the new like Twitch Prime or Prime Gaming now advertisements and stuff like that. And there are a lot of players who come in and they're asking about, RTA, how long it'll take them to get there, what they should do for progression. So I wanted to ask this question. This can be about RTA and progressing towards that. This could just be about being a new player, but what do you wish you knew when you started E7? Oh no. Yeah, what do you wish you knew when you started E7?
How much money I would spend so I would not play E7?
I already know. I play Summoners War, so I already knew that. Like right off the bat, I knew how much money I was gonna spend. I don't know, most of it's like redundant because it's stuff like, hey, maybe I would have considered different things knowing they were going to do an ML refund, you know? But like that's irrelevant because it doesn't apply to a new player. It just applies to how like frustrated I am with that decision.
Mhm.
I think that it's hard to say as like a new player now versus a new player when I first started, because it's a completely different game for the most part.
Mhm.
I mean, so much stuff has changed, but I think like for new players, just slowing down and taking your time to learn the game, honestly, because I feel too many people get into the game and they see this person's doing Wyvern 13. This is all the suggestions here. This is the suggestions there. And a lot of it is very overwhelming, and just taking your time to just catch your breath and then really actually learn the mechanics of the game before you just listen to whatever, you know, the Senku level players of Reddit tell you to do, which is literally going to be just go do Wyvern. Actually, don't even bother with the story, because your 10-10 pool is going to be Elson anyways. Just go do Wyvern for the next like 6 months, and then you can actually start playing the game. And I think that actually burns a lot of people out. I think that there's a lot to do in the game, and it's very, especially compared to other gacha games, it's very heavy. Whereas like other games, it's press 3 buttons and win, you know, farm this one node for the next, like, you know, 3 or 4 days for this event. And I think that just learning more about the game and doing like your due diligence to actually research and kind of grasp it is probably the best advice for like a newer player.
Yeah, I would have to agree that a lot of players don't take the time to, I guess, like learn the game now because they are so excited to get into Wyvern, you know, pushing for Wyvern 12, Wyvern 13 immediately when there's so many other things that you could do, right? Because that's not even like, obviously we all do have to farm Wyvern eventually, but I know when I started, I left Wyvern originally. I went to Golems. You know, I had fun in there.
Same.
I farmed my A13. That's why I'm so slow. That's why I have like no speed gear. I've had to like go backtrack and farm it and stuff like that. But I sat down and I enjoyed the story. I liked reading the story. I know it's not for everybody. But you know, I read the story. I learned about mechanics, and you know, I played through Abyss, and I had a good time. I think that there is a wealth of stuff inside of the game. So I would say, yeah, try not to get too overwhelmed with E7. Know that there are a lot of good content creators out there that can help if you have specific questions, and to just have fun. And also, free gear is OP, right? You can
your everybody else's free gear is OP. My free gear is hot doo doo. That's
well, free gear is better now than it was when we started.
It's OP. It's OP now. I'm saying this in the present tense. Free gear is pretty OP. You can get by in the game on like free gear for a long time.
Like the Christmas gear was great, you know.
Yeah,
and now we get a whole bunch of gear like the Christmas gear now when you start the game.
Yeah.
I think my biggest thing to answer your question with like starting as a new player is I always ask people, what games did you play first? Because I think that's a huge factor and a huge piece of important, relevant information. Because if you came from Summoner's War, I can explain the game very differently than if you came from like any other game ever. Because every other game basically is a collection-based game, and then there's Summoner's War.
I
mean it's Gear Gacha versus like non. I guess maybe if you play a little bit of King's Raid, I could kind of explain it as well. But for the most part, if you came to this game as a collection-based player, like you played Azur Lane or you played like FGO and stuff like that, like explaining this game to you is going to be a lot more about, hey, try not to burn yourself out, enjoy the game, versus like if you came to this game from Summoner's War, it's like, all right, I know you're here to torture yourself and farm 24/7 and spend all of your money, so here's how to min-max it, right?
Yeah, true. Yeah, because coming in,
sorry, like you said, the biggest thing is just like enjoy the game and don't get so hung up on. I tell this to everyone when they start any game, doesn't matter. Don't get so hung up on comparing yourself. Maybe not even games. Actually, I do this a lot in life too, because a lot of people ask me for stream advice. They're like, how have you been doing it for so long? How have you been able to like stream every single day for 300 days and stuff like that? The most important thing is, and it's impossible to do it all the time, but the most important thing is to not always compare yourself to everybody else. What's important is that you follow the path that you want to set for yourself and you figure out how that works. Your path doesn't have to be the same as everyone else's path, right? Your stream, your game, your life, your career, your education, your health, your mental health, none of those things have to be exactly the same as everybody else. And it's actually extremely degrading to always sit there and compare yourself to everyone else, whether it's someone else's standards they've set on you, whether it's the standards you've set on yourself, whether they're realistic or impossible, it doesn't matter. What's important is that you are not constantly forcing somebody else's like ideal on life on yourself. And that's really, really important with gacha games because you'll burn out 4 times faster. If you're like if you start playing Epic 7, you're like, I want to be as fast as once. Like, it's just not going to happen. I'm going to sit there and I'm gonna tell you, all right, good luck. Have fun spending 15, 20 grand getting here.
Yeah.
I think that that's a really, really good piece of advice, and something that even I had to pull back and do myself, both in real life and inside of Epic 7, right? Because I would look at, when I pulled Spectre Tenebria, for instance, right? I would look at my friend Spectre Tenebrius, and I'd be like, how do you get stats like that? It would take my best possible gear to get that, or like, I need to go farm forever to achieve that level of gear. And then I realized that it doesn't take that to actually use her, right? I can have fun with Spectre Tenebria, I can play her, I can use her without his or her gear, right? And you know, I didn't have to rush in Epic 7 to be the best. I was very casual when I first started the game, right? Very, very casual. I just tried to have fun with it, right? And I think that in life as well, it is important not to compare yourself to other people. I've stopped doing a lot of activities that I enjoyed because of that, right? I used to draw a lot more and play the saxophone, and I just got more back into it because I stopped comparing myself to others and just.
Kaz, I really want a sax stream now.
my chat used to love my sax streams, dude.
Epic sax Kaz. But no, I completely agree with that as well, with the not comparing yourself to other people's gear. And I think that that's one of the kind of the detriments to like character reviews, right? Is that, you know, you'll have an Omega Whale come in with their just like, you know, $30,000 worth of gear, slap it on a new unit and go, hey, look, I can literally kill anything that moves, or oh, I can't kill anything that moves. This is my decision now upon this character. Whereas, you know, maybe this character is really good. It's like when everybody pulled for ML Ken, right? ML Ken is very hard to gear to do what some people do, where, you know, you just solo an entire team with an ML Ken, right? Mm-hmm. So one of the big things was when ML Ken was out, you know, and you could get it from Mystics, everybody pulled for ML Ken, and then I saw a lot of people going, but wait, my ML Ken doesn't do what YD's ML Ken does. And I'm like, okay, well, did you spend, you know, $20,000-$30,000 worth of gear to get the gear that YD has? And they're like, well, no, but I thought I could just slap gear on ML Ken because everybody else does it. And then they would get real frustrated because they spent all their Mystics to get ML Ken, or, you know, something along those lines, or any other unit, right? And you know, just going, hey, look, man, calm down, take a breath, look at what you have, look at what you need to go and do, and then focus on that one thing. And one of the things too I've been telling people lately is like, stop and this is hard for me too, is every time something new and shiny comes out, your focus just goes to that new thing, and then you have a whole roster of units with +3 on them. You have no Mologoras. None of your meta units are fully fleshed out. Your FCC only has 90% chance to provoke. You lose a first round, and then you go, man, if I wouldn't have put those, you know, +4 points into Elfelt's S3, then I could have put it over here. So kind of just sitting down, having a plan, and then, yeah, I agree, not comparing yourself to all of the streamer gear or even people in your guild. And if you are comparing yourself to them, take that as a benchmark to go, this is what I want, this is what I need to work towards. So you can use it both ways, right?
So I have one more piece of advice as well, which this is very different from, you know, the positivity and stuff like that. But if you're in Wyverns and you have that health set, plus 15 the right side pieces. That's all I'm saying. I remembered this just because a lot of people come to me and they're like, my tank dies to wyverns, and I look at their gear and it's not plus 15. It's like plus 9, plus 6, plus 5. You know, make sure you upgrade your gear pieces, right? That's going to be an important level of stats that you get from there. Even if they're 6-star, a lot of stats come from plus 15 in your gear. With that being said, though, I do want to move into open discussion.
Can I have one more thing for your last question before we move in, if that's okay with you?
Yeah, sure.
There was a Reddit post recently talking about Legend tier gear in RTA, with screenshots of every single individual piece along with like the builds and the meta builds. Most of them were actually pretty accurate to like the majority of current Legend builds, 230 RBs, 230 to 250 RVs, stuff like that. Those kind of posts are really nice and informative because it tells people like, this is what people actually use at this end. And it was nice and informative because it explained, the person who wrote the thread explained why they had each unit at certain speeds and certain builds. Mm-hmm. But those kind of threads are also detrimental to a lot of people because a lot of people kind of have a toxic mindset where they go into that and they're like, if I can't do this, it's not worth it, right? Which is just entirely untrue. Mm-hmm. So in my guild, actually, we talked about it and some people were like, you know, I can make blank to this stat, but then these units are weaker. And you know, my analogy for that was there's no point building a unit to the 100% meta standard and having 2 units to 75% when you could just build all 3 of them to 85 or all 3 of them to like 80, 82 or 83% of that standard, right? Mm-hmm. It's more efficient, except for like a few specific like hard carry units. It's more efficient to build the whole team to like a similar standard level than it is to have 1 super carry unit and 2 detriments. Right, like if you're using the teams that I used for a long time, I used Basar, Lilius, and Arby. Right, if I had my insanely fast gear in my Basar, but then my Lilius was like just not really that good, and I realized it wasn't performing well. So what I did was I actually took 2 pieces from Basar, swapped them into my Lilius, brought their gear quality to similar levels, and my win rate went up like 30%.
Yeah.
Right, like shorting 1 unit on your team is really bad because you don't build units individually. You have to build a whole team, which is like I said with my Alencia, right? Like my Alencia is a certain speed because it fits my entire account, not because it's really good at that speed, right? In the ranks that I play in, because I don't play in Legend, I like to just like play whatever comp I feel like playing whatever day, and I decay every single week. Oftentimes my Alencia outspeeds people's DNs, right? Like I have a 220 Alencia. Most people aren't fast enough to actually move past it until I start pushing high champion again. Mm-hmm. So like it's you know, it's unfortunate, it is what it is, but it still makes sense because my Alencia is still 10 speed ahead of my MLR, ahead of my old Dizzy and stuff like that, right? So like it would always strip into these debuffers. Yeah. So you have to build everything for your account. Don't build everything for someone else's account.
I completely agree. That's what I had to do to when I just built up my Benevolent Roman. I had to lower the stats of my Mui, actually a little bit, degrade her effectiveness, I think like 15%, in order to get the speed tuning proper for my team. And, you know, usually I don't like to steal pieces of gear from units, but in order to sync my account to operate on what I needed, you know, that's what I had to do. And, you know, they work really, really well together now, that I tiered for that. Now, open discussion is just if y'all have any topics that y'all want to talk about after, we'll field some questions from chat and stuff like that. But is there any topics that y'all want to bring up that we didn't?
I have a question for both of you. How many I-90s do you have?
I have 2. Last time I checked, I have 227.
That's a lot.
Wait, that is a lot.
The person who posted the Reddit thread said that they have 57, I think. And my only thought process was that if they have 57, they move the gear around to each unit to show what the like meta stats are, but I'm not actually sure. If that person actually only has 57 pieces of I-90 gear and it's every single one that he showed, that guy's insanely good.
For just specifically getting those units?
Yeah, because
that would be hard.
It's insanely hard. He showed like 13 units that were insane, right? I have 94 pieces of I-90 gear, and my gear's not even close to that guy's.
Chat, and he probably is like, oh, 227. What is that? That's some rookie numbers. Careless probably has like 500.
I think my guess is Careless is at 375 to 360.
What? I'm at 150 pieces.
150 or 115? 115.
115. pieces of reforged gear. How many did Shogun say that he had?
227.
Yeah, I don't read those numbers. I've been behind the curve for a very long time. I don't normally buy leaf packs. And when I farm, it's just with like the Skystone that I get, or if I am forced to buy Mystics for RB, then I have a little bit extra Skystones to farm. So I've been behind the curve for a while, slowly I-90ing my units. Even my LQC still isn't finished, but I've been getting by with just this amount of gear, right? Because I feel like I focused pretty well on the units that I actually wanted to use in RTA. Like my Crow, my Deanne, all them Soul Weavers and supports stuff, they're not I-90 because I don't play with them, right? So my Guild War defense suffers, or my Guild War offensive. I felt it when the I-90 thing first came out, and my Crow was getting blown up by every Reforged Charles in the game. Like they just did so much damage, and but I don't know. I don't know how much reforging gear actually matters. I know it is a hefty stat boost, but I think you can get by with a lesser amount, right? It just kind of depends on your team comps and make sure everything's all right. So
I don't know. I think I-90 gear is extremely strong. Like the difference between an I-90 gear unit versus a non-I-90 unit is insane.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if you added all the stats together, I think it's like a total of like 80 to 100% stats, is it not?
Really? Oh, you mean like the total like percentage?
Yeah. So red gear ends up being at minimum 7% per I-90, depending on what stats you're at. But if you're using like stats that have HP defense attack and not speed, or HP defense attack and speed, or HP defense attack crit, stuff like that, you end up getting like up to 12 to 14 per piece, depending on how many rolls you get.
How many pieces of reforged gear do you have once?
95.
95. Oh, you have less than me, actually.
I'm holding on to 20 in materials right now.
Are you don't have anything good enough, or are you just waiting, or?
I don't know. I don't know what I want to do. I have 80 leaves, 6,000 skystones, 80 million gold, 55,000 wyvern claws, and 20,000 of the asthmatic materials, and I'm not really sure how I want to approach upgrading my gear because charms literally don't exist, and like for the most part I used to just feed 85 gear because I just don't care anymore. Like it's not worth waiting forever to upgrade a piece of gear.
I mean, yeah.
But I'm not sure, like I don't know, I've been doing a little bit of math. I have 80 million gold right now. I've been doing a lot of like small calculations, and I'm kind of just waiting until I finish like an enhancing pet, like a pet that has good and great chance plus the enhancement, or like enhancement minus cost plus the great chance or whatever. But I don't know. I'm not really sure. Like I'm so demoralized. All my arena gear rolled so bad. All of my arena gear in total, without the 88 boost or the 90 boost for the I-90, almost all of it is less than 3 rolls out of 5 if you take max rolls. Like my shoes are 11, 11, 13, 17.
That's gross.
Which means I min rolled just over the mid roll, and then I double min rolled.
You know what's kind of sad? I wanted effectiveness. That's all I wanted on those boots. It dodged until the 5th roll, and at that point it rolled 13. So I have like 17 effect res, 20% attack, 13 effectiveness, and you better believe I'm using it on my Pro Horizon. So I don't have anything else, right?
All I wanted was all of like 3 rolls and 1 stat. It doesn't matter which stat it is. 3 rolls and 1 stat is always going to be good.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's like gear is easier to use when you roll really heavily into 1 stat because it makes it faster and easier to like put it on any build because we don't have an optimizer, right? Or we don't have like a nearly as efficient optimizer as Exandros.
Yeah, you can't, because you can't export JSON, right?
Yeah, there's no JSON export, but like I don't know. I'm kind of like sitting here kind of like frustrated. I think one of the most frustrating things for me now is because I play so much Summoners War, and Summoners War released the RTA separation of runes, is like I don't really care about RTA and E7. I guess for a couple, not just that. There's a couple reasons for it. The biggest reason I don't care about E7 RTA is there's no rewards for doing it, and it's an unlimited pool. So it's just really frustrating because like if I want to be a player like in Legend, it's not about my win rate, it's about how many games I play. mean, okay, it is about win rate, but it's not as much about just win rate. Like in Summoners War, if you want to be Guardian 30, you want to be top 100, right, which is the legend quality here, you probably need a 65% win rate, which is very, very difficult, and it's very, very rewarding because you can only play 30 games a day, right? In Epic 7, because the whole last season, I had a 71% win rate, and because of decay, and because like it's just not it's just so hard to like compete without playing a million games. I gave up on Legend because it just wasn't worth my time.
We were talking last time about what we would do to like improve RTA, and a lot of people don't want to, I guess, like limit the RTA. I was for it just because I'm a previous Summoners War player. I think like it'd be a little bit harder to implement here because we had an unlimited system, and I was like, maybe we can have 50. But I think there should be some kind of reward. I'm hoping they do add that when the next season comes is some sort of reward for playing the game, because a lot of players did struggle with, you play the whole RTA season, you don't get Legend, you have the same champion border as thousands upon thousands of people, and you got nothing out of your 2,000 games. Right? So I think
just call me out directly next time.
I mean, hey, there were a lot of people that were like that, right? Realistically. But yeah, moving on. Do you have anything you want to talk about, Shogun, before we open it up to chat? And
you know what? No, I'm gonna address what you just said though, Kaz. I mean, I do agree that there needs to be some sort of reward, right? But I think that for certain people, especially the people that are pushing like the really high, just top tier, the real reward is the people that you clapped along the way, and the flex potential of just being able to go, oh yeah, I'm top 10. Sure, I played 20 hours a day, and I have 42,000 matches in, but I don't know. That's just how it is for me.
I just think that's anti-competitive. To be able to just like outgrind somebody like that, right? That's a dedication of grinding. That's not a dedication of competitive level, in my opinion. Because this is a competitive skill-based game. It's not a competitive. It's not. We're not playing Path of Exile trying to like grind the ladder to like who can get level 100 the fastest, right? We're not trying to see who can do it in hardcore solo self-found. We're playing a turn-based competitive skill-based game against each other. So like, where is the skill-based aspect if you can just infinitely outgrind the fact that your win rate's not as high?
Well, but here's the thing, though, and I'll disagree with you there, because the higher you get, the harder it is to actually grind, because if you're not a good player, if you're not actually beating everybody, then you lose 30 points, but if you win, you only get 3. So it's not like you can just play 30,000 matches and then you're just instantly given Legend, because if you're not at the quality, the tier of player,
I think we both know that we're at the assumption that you have the gear and the brains to play it at that level. I'm saying
Right.
like the difference between like if you could only play 30 matches a day, right, at your gear quality and your ability to play, like you wouldn't even be close.
Yeah, a lot
Like,
of
you would be so far behind Legend players. Just by points.
There are a lot of people that played fewer matches and were able to climb up. I can't remember his name right now, but there was somebody who came out of nowhere during like the last week of RTA, kind of just stomped everybody with his gear quality. And then I've seen other people that have double the amount of matches that I have that just grinded it. I think being able to do unlimited matches is a problem, and kind of does make up for some of the, I guess, like mistakes that you can make along the way. It doesn't matter if you Papega cleave every single match, because you're going to win more than you lose, which means that eventually you're going to increase in points. There's not the same risk that it should have. And I think that's a problem. But at the same time, right, I do partially agree with what Shogun is saying, is that you do have to have a certain level of gear quality and a certain level of knowledge to get there. I think that if there was a harder cap, people would play smarter. Right? Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're all going to play tank comps and stuff like that. Like we did see a little bit in the last
like you
season.
said, though, right? Like, play smarter, right? People can literally get away with no punishment because, like,
you just play more matches.
They just no. I mean, like, like on your side, what you're saying, right? You're saying like people with insanely good gear quality, because there's no match limit, can just play on the last 2 days and just like dumpster people because there's no punishment.
Mm-hmm.
There's no punishment for just running the exact same team every single game without even thinking. You don't even you could fully draft into your own counter picks, and it just doesn't matter because you're gonna beat most people because the meta units are way stronger in this, right? You don't think so?
No, just
Tywin
because
is like
I'm
just insanely strong.
so I played again. My best matchup was against the meta last season because I played weird controls. If I saw Crowder well, I was happy. If I saw like the ML times, I was like, well, that was pre-buff. Or was it pre-buff?
It was pre-buff.
It was pre-buff. Yeah. So it was just.
Was it pre-buff? I don't think so.
Tywin got changed about halfway through the season.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was still
he
able
got
to bog him
changed.
down when I had Faithless Lidica. I mean, not Faithless Lidica, Fire Lidica, because I could proc his passive before he
The
actually
last
got his
2
turn.
weeks, everyone was destroying people with ML Tywin.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. If you could have any change to, I guess, like stop that from happening, would match limit be the only way? I remember looking at the ladder and there was a secondary problem with it, which was that it was an inflation based system, and I think the reality is the fact that it is an inflation based system, meaning that if you win one lose one against somebody at the same relative rank as you gain 2 points, and the fact that it was unlimited matches was the real problem. I think that if there was still unlimited matches, but you got rid of the inflation system and punished people more for loss, that would be fine. Or if you capped it, that would be fine.
So that kind of depends. You can't just have one thing to change that, right? You can't have one thing that changes that. It's just not possible because there's a couple issues with the system, and it depends which way you want to go, right? If you want to reward people who are extremely skill-based, like people who draft really, really well, for example, and almost always have the upper hand out of the draft, then what you need to do is you need to limit it by number of games, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you want to keep it open games, like as many as possible, and you need to, and you want to like make it so there's not this like huge set of point disparity, then you need to change the inflation by either removing it, or you need to have really hard punishment for losing to worse players, which works, but it's also very frustrating as a top end player.
Yeah, losing
like,
to the champion police is hard.
Yeah, so I mean, like in Summer's War, for example, it's like when you were making your G2, G3 push at the end of the season, you're fighting like conk threes every single game. You win 1 point, you lose 12, right? Like I'm sure you remember because you watched all of us do it and rage
so
every day.
tragic, yeah.
But it was very rewarding to be a player who could consistently outdraft and win, right?
But Chad is offering a few suggestions. I saw 2 that were interesting, which said to add more ranks. I think having the because because you mentioned Summoners War, right, where they have G1, G2, G3, and they all get the like Guardian level rewards, albeit that they get a little bit more. Maybe that might help alleviate it. But what Careless was saying was that there aren't enough people currently playing RTA to make a match limit system work. And I
agree.
I think like 200 people total, or this was the estimate, that there were like 200 people that were actively trying for Legend. So yeah, I don't think that's really enough to constitute a
I think that comes with like Legend rewards not really being
good enough,
worth anything. I mean, the difference between Legend and Champion is the border, which I mean is relevant to some people, but like that's not like a super significant reward that makes people who are like close really want to push. Like a lot of people would just sit there and be like, oh sweet, I can just finish your champion, no effort, right? Because champion, all you need is 2,000 points. You don't even need a rank.
Yeah, it's just the points and you're done.
Yeah, so I just climbed back to 2,000 for 1,400 after my 10 million decay points, and I was like, sweet, I'm done. I don't have to do anything.
It's crazier that a lot of people just parked it in Masters because in this game they are more generous with the skin, right? That the skin is not the Legend reward, but it's the Masters reward, and that the border is the Legend reward. So I'm wondering what they could do inside of this game to kind of give Legend a little bit more worth, because obviously I love the flex border, right? I'm not very good at arena, so I don't have like a top 30 or top 3 arena border. So I wanted to go for that, but yeah, maybe they can make the rewards a little bit better next season.
I always go in the direction of cosmetics, right? If Epic 7 released a skin like every 2 weeks, I don't think anyone would actually be mad at the game. right? Because it's optional, it's cosmetic. There's a lot of people who are going to like it, and it's going to be good for the game, right? And at the same time, you can just reward people by giving them skin tickets. Like,
True.
I have always been of the mind that live PvP should have a really nice season reward that basically gives people like nothing that impacts the game super hard, like in the sense of like you can't give out like galaxy bookmarks, you can't give out like 500 covenant bookmarks, right? You can't give out those things. You can give out, however, like a skin, 2 skins. You can give out 100 skin tickets, you can give out 200 skin tickets, you can do all these things. But to do that, you need to like create a system where there's actually value in having those items. So like if we released a skin every 2 weeks at the same rate we release new heroes, right? And there was a skin for a different unit, and we could start like adding multiple skins for each unit too, right? Like we could have like 3 different DN skins, we could have 3 different Alencia skins, right? And it's great because we have so many artists on Pixit. We have Korean artists, we have Japanese artists, we have North American artists, we have European artists, we have artists everywhere, right? It just brings so much revenue to the game without actually impacting, 1, the quality of the game, and 2, like the disparity of strength in the game. But it gives people something that they might want to push for, right?
That's actually one of the biggest suggestions that I've seen people pushing, especially with the new summer side story that came out, that people wondered, where's my Clarissa skin? Where's my Montmorency skin? Because they saw the art and they're like, well, I would spend skin tickets on that. So I hope that in the future they do decide to release more of these skins, even if they have to go straight to the skin ticket shop, right? Because if you want to push sales for cosmetics, you know, I'm fine with that. That's cool. That's not power creep, you know, a little bit of skin creep.
Yeah, and then they need to have those things that are exclusive to the ranks, right? For Legend, it was the border, right? For Champion, it could be the skin and a weaker border, right? For Masters, it can be the same thing, right? Or you can have skins that are only available if you got, you know, Champion or Legend or just Legend, right? You can have those types of exclusivity, but it's not... like that doesn't take away from gameplay is my whole point with it, right?
Yeah.
Like adding a shit ton of cosmetics to a game is almost always the best way to like appease the 50-50 split of the player base, because you know there's players like us where we're like really hard into the gear gacha, right? Like you have 220 something I-90 pieces, he's got like 100, I have 95, right? And then there's people who just want to collect every single unit, so they never ever use a Skystone for energy ever, right? And those people would love to get skins. They would play a little bit of RTA. They'd be like, oh, sweet. If I finish Masters, I get like 20 skin tickets. Let me just play a little RTA near the end of the season. Let me finish Masters. It'll be nice and comfortable. Wait, maybe I don't even make Masters. Maybe I just make gold. 10 skin tickets. Sweet. That's like 1/6 of a skin. Sweet. Oh, they're doing monthly rewards? Oh, RTA has monthly rewards now. If I finish the end of the month in Masters, they'll give me 10 skin tickets. Sweet. Right? And then you could just have like 100 skins in the game that people can choose from and what they want. People will still buy the skin ticket packs too, because right now it's not even worth buying. Like, why would you buy the skin tickets?
Yeah,
because
there's
there's not enough skins.
No.
Yeah.
You know, like I may not be a hardcore Legend E7 player. I may not be the best like mechanically skilled player ever, but I can tell you that I really, really hard look into the analytics of what makes money in games, and I absolutely love looking at it from a developer and publisher standpoint. Publisher standpoint, skins is like the most effective way to make money without ruining a game. It's super easy, and it's super, super good. And you can also draw the community back into it by saying like, you know, let's host contests. Let's host a contest where people like submit art and we'll make a skin out of it.
The E7 contest
and then
was really
you reward
nice.
them for it. You get a community interaction. Wow.
And then we
easy.
just get more Tenebria skins.
Yeah, okay.
Are you not okay with more Tenebria skins?
I like Schoolgirl Tenny, right? I'm not going to get the Alice in Wonderland Tenny, but it was really nice that they did that, right? I mean, there was a huge prize pool, but it was really, really nice that they did that skin contest to get skins into the game. I just want to comment on one thing that Dio said inside of the chat, was that he was wondering why, like, when you're one of the higher ranked players, you don't get the prizes of what's under you. And I always felt that was really weird, that, like, there were some people who were gold that did not push to master because they said, I don't have Spectre Tenebria, I'm going to take the 2,000 conquest points, which was crazy to me. But, well, like, it's still like, you said what?
It's a lot of charms.
I mean, yeah, it is. It's a lot of resources, but like I don't know why they did that, why they cut off the conquest points. Smogate, if you're listening to this, please give the conquest points to everybody. Even if you cap it at 2,000, and like if you're higher rank you only get 2,000, that's fine. Just give it out.
So theoretically, it actually makes more sense to take the 2,000 conquest points if it's just the skin discussion. If you don't care about the border, like the frame,
Yeah.
the 2,000 conquest points are worth a lot more because you can literally just buy skin tickets. Because they did say she's coming out in the future.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. She's not going to be like
so like, it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
And then the thing with like conquest points is like, oh yeah, you could just buy conquest points, but yeah, but then you have to sit there and you have to play arena, or you have to go in and lose every single match, and that is just way too much work, right? Maybe now it's like kind of worth it because you can farm friendship, but at the same time, like that's such a Papega way of arguing.
So you could just exit out, farm friendship, pay sky stones for might as well just buy mole packs at that point.
Yeah, well, I've actually seen people doing that, which is super, super weird to me.
That's a suggestion I made when I first started the game, was if you hate doing arena, just go in and lose to the same person all week.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I've seen people do that.
Right?
Just learned about it like a couple weeks ago, but yeah, I've seen people doing that. So
it just seems way more work than just, I don't know, man, that's just crazy.
I'm doing it this week because I'm lazy. I moved all my gear to my Guild Wars defense, so I'm like, fuck it, I don't really care.
Yeah, I've been trying to be better about my flags recently because I looked and I saw somebody had like over 100 something battles a week, and I was like, I have like 20 offenses. I need to play more arena. This is why I have no conquest points, but I do want to some time here. We haven't for a while. I want to open up for questions for chat. They've already started spamming questions, so if you have any questions for anybody here, you can direct it at any one of us. But you know, if you have anything that you want to ask chat, feel free.
Okay, so while we wait for chat, I want to discuss the shop, the new shop that's coming out with multiple, where you can buy molas in the shop that gives you dupe coins, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is from the perspective of a player who has spent probably $12,000 to $15,000. I have never summoned 7 of a unit. I have no ML dupes. I've summoned 170 to 180 Galaxy bookmarks without, or not bookmarks, 170 to 180 Galaxy summons without a single ML5.
Yeah,
So like this shop literally will never apply to me. I'm sitting here hoping I pull a dupe ML unit so that I can buy Molagoras.
Once. I'm right there with you. I've never summoned an ML5 outside of Mystics. Daily doesn't exist. Bookmarks. I'm not with you anymore, but I still have not. I haven't gotten them, dude. It's tragic.
That sounds like me in FGO. I spent like 25 grand and never got a 6th unit that gives you the unregistered Spirit Origin that you turn in 10 of those for a unit. Yeah, that was my luck in FGO, but over here I'm sitting pretty on plenty of coins. Crow just refuses to not stop coming to my account. I have a triple S Crow and like 5 copies of him as well. It feels bad.
My only hope is that we can trade in units we already have for coins, because I know there's units I don't care about, and I would rather have the moles than have that extra unit imprint.
True.
And I know that that's not really the most efficient way, because like if you spend and you play a lot, like eventually you get everything, but it's so far down the road that I'm probably $30,000 away from having a triple S everything.
Yeah, I don't have the only triple S unit I have is from Slates and it's Vildred, but there are a lot of questions coming out as well. There's 2 that I see that are really interesting here. One is for Once, and he said he got a question for OnceInLuv involving nerfs in this game compared to Summoner's War. I remembered he asked a little bit earlier, but how do you think they compare? Because they don't really nerf inside of this game, right?
I hate the concept of no nerfs in every single game. It doesn't matter what. I've played Dota at like just under... I played Dota at the top 100 before. I played League just under that as well. Not for long, but I have crossed them. I hate the concept of no nerfs because you can never balance a game without nerfing certain things. And it's okay to like bring something out and be like, hey, we fucked up. That is way too strong, and nerf it, right? I think that your approach afterwards to how you like change things and adjust things is fine, but I think that nerfing things doesn't always involve making a unit completely trash. And that is the misconception that I hate in gacha gaming. The misconception that I hate in gacha gaming is everyone's like, oh, they want to nerf that unit. That unit's never going to get used again. That's not what I mean. Like you can nerf something by like tweaking it very slightly. right? Like if you took Arby, for example, and instead of nerfing him, like removing his revive or something, you can just like lower his damage on skill 3 a little bit, like maybe 4% or 5%, right? You can make these small tweaks to units that make them still viable and still strong, but they're not insane, right? Nerfs don't have to be this unit is completely different, it doesn't do the same thing anymore. And that's acceptable, and I don't think you have to refund for that.
What I was hoping was that I think that's an even better idea, slowly damage tweaking or like tweaking certain multipliers and stuff like that. I've always said that the RB nerf that I want would be to revert his skill 3 mischance back to what it was originally, which was the 75%, because when they originally buffed him, they took his 75%. If you notice, Arbiter Villager doesn't have any Molagora enhancements towards effect chance, and that's because, unlike ML Iseria, you know, starting at 75, getting boosted up or whatever, he just got buffed to 100%. I think that's kind of crazy that he's also this like insane debuffer as well. What I was partially hoping was that instead of, and the reason why I think that they don't nerf ML5 units, right? Because they don't want to give out selectors. It's very, I don't want to say that it's dangerous. It is very dangerous giving out the selectors all the time, because you're just going to have everybody dogpiling on whatever the next meta unit. I feel like if one unit got nerfed now, everybody would have ML Tywin, and he would be the new flavor of the month.
At the end of the day, does that matter though? Like giving out, like mystics make it so obtainable, and I mean obtainable because like if you are really going for it, it's really not that unrealistic for someone to just pity out a mystic, right?
Yeah. No, what I was gonna say was though that if that
okay,
was
so
what
I don't
they-
mean mystics are attainable for like everyone. I mean like we're talking like at the high end level. Like everyone at this level is literally spending like enough money that it's really kind of negligible. Do you disagree with that, Shogun?
No, not too much.
Right, like
I mean,
I'm not talking your free to play like masters players, you know, popping out mystic pities whenever you want. I'm talking like if you're like pushing for legend, like and you really want the next mystic unit to come out, or it's like a repeat of something that's like really good, you're just gonna get it because you care that much about the game and you probably have the disposable income for it.
Yeah, not only that, but I mean, if you can, especially if it's a rerun of a unit that you already have, I mean, you've got time to sleep on that unit. Or if it's one that, you know, you're kind of on the fence about, like if you didn't pull ML Iseria, which I mean, you probably shouldn't, but I mean, you've got plenty of time, months to go. And I mean, you're going to get mystics from Guild Wars, you're going to get mystics from shop every so often, because you're going to get those if you're refreshing shop for bookmarks anyways. So it's not too bad. I don't usually have too much of I don't usually have to wail very hard to pull whatever the ML5 is, even if I have to pity on it.
The suggestion that I was going to give was that if they are afraid of giving away the selectors, I'm not necessarily saying that they're like a terrible thing that we need to avoid. If that's what they need to do to balance the game more, and they need to nerf and give out selectors because they set the precedence, that's whatever. But maybe say like, okay, if you want to recall this ML5, you know, you get rid of it, you can trade it for these tokens or whatever that they're giving out, or whatever, some X number of tokens. I saw that as a suggestion. I'm not necessarily 100% on board with the, like, you know, nerf to then if you want to recall it, but it would make people have a second thought about just recalling the units, right, like that, and decide if this nerf really makes you not want this unit.
You mean like Champ Zerato?
Yeah, because some people just, they're like, I can just trade to whatever unit I want now, and I'm just going to trade him away, and then they don't have Champ Zerato anymore, and then they're like, wait, I wish that I had him again, right?
Especially when they fight E-Ray Kaz.
Yeah. And they're gonna want him back, and they don't have him. But I tossed mine away, right? Because I don't use Champion Zerato. I use immunity buff. I like immunity.
I mean, I think
instead.
so. I want to chime in on the thing about nerfs, right? And I think that because we don't see nerfs very often, if at all, as soon as a unit gets any sort of tweak, fix, nerf, whatever, that unit is now literally the most unplayable piece of garbage that has ever existed and should just be deleted from the game. I remember when they changed Wanda, because her target previously was bypassing like what 97% of effectiveness on Banshee, and because she was so core in the Banshee one shot with Watcher Shuri, as soon as they fixed that to where it was, you know, in this 15%, everybody just like, she's complete garbage, just get rid of her from the entire game. Then they gave her the specialty change, and then they still said she was garbage, but now she's good against evasion. But regardless, yeah, as soon as they fixed Champ Zerato, like, I just saw so many people that were just like, this unit will literally never be used again. I'm just going to completely get rid of this. I hope I never pull another one. And I think that that's a, you know, a mindset that a lot of players have gotten into, just because we don't ever see nerfs, right? As soon as SBR, as soon as ML Ball got changed, I mean, everybody still to this day says that they're trash, even though, I mean, SBR is still super good. And I've gotten wrecked before by people running ML Ball. And I'm just like, I don't even know how to fight against this dude because nobody runs him because everybody thinks he's garbage. So, you know, it's, you know, there's C Armin. Yeah, when they changed C Armin, because chat said C Armin, literally unplayable. No one's ever going to use this Falconeer Quarry. And I think that, you know, because the community, subsets of the community complain so much about that, that Smilegate's just kind of like, no, we don't want to give you more selectors, because to what Kaz was saying earlier, you know, giving out that selector could be dangerous, because now you're going to have everybody going, okay, well, I want this flavor of the month character, and then everybody goes to ML Tywin, and then everyone's like, well, ML Tywin's super cancer. We need to nerf ML Tywin now. So then they nerf ML Tywin, and then we get into this like circular logic of, you know, well, whatever the new flavor of the month that is dominating everybody needs to have a nerf. And I can see, especially the Reddit community getting into that and complaining about every new flavor of the month character, and then they just have to go and nerf, and, you know, yeah.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. That's exactly what I meant.
Unpopular opinion, but I think that the change to Champions are out of skill 1 was really good, actually. I think the reason it was really good is because it forces people to actually give him real gear.
Yeah, yeah, you have to.
I mean, he's still really good.
Yeah.
If you give him gear.
Yeah.
Before, you could just give him nothing. Like, I used a 5-star champion Zerato to solo some Abyss Floors with, like, random shit gear. Like, his gear was, like, +9, and it worked. I was like, oh, sweet. Wow, this unit's busted. This is actually so dumb. I watched people hit my Guild Wars defense with a 5-star Bazaar and win just because they transfer buff block to my RV. And I'm like, all right, this is why I need build Ilias. And it's like, this guy literally has no gear. It's just the fact that the unit exists. I'm like, oh, this is so sad.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I love when defense break got put onto my like 275 effect resist DJ Bazaar and got blown up. Yeah, I was like, oh, this is cool. So yeah, no, I actually think that it should be, that's how it should have been. And I think that a lot of people just too quick to pull the trigger on dead unit, dead game, 1-star downvote is just way too quick on a lot of the things.
People don't want to think for themselves. They actually like heavily refute the concept of thinking for themselves. They're like, this guy who's really good at the game because his rank is really high said this is trash. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care what I think. It's trash. It has to be trash.
I remember when Flitica first came out and everybody was like, Flitica's actually hot doo-doo because Fallen Cecilia exists.
And
I'm like,
so good.
I'm like, just put enough damage on her to break the shield. I'm like, you can cleave with her. And people are like, you can't cleave with her. And then I did it and I put it in a video and they're like, yeah, well, she's still bad. And I'm like, you guys are
Cerise? Do you remember when everyone said Cerise?
Yeah, everyone said skip Cerise, garbage unit, you don't need it. And now people are like, dang, I wish I had that Cerise. She's pretty good.
Yeah,
base speed is insane.
Refund. Alencia literally unusable. Why would I ever use Alencia? Charles exists. Oh
yeah, defense buff. I forgot that that's relevant, even though they nerfed that too. Still the most insane buff in the game, but they nerfed it.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I think nerfs would make the game a lot healthier. However they want to go about balancing it, I think it would be good. Whether they want to go with the, if they need to give out selectors, fine. If they want to do certain damage tweaks, I think that would be really, really good. Just adjusting things, having more than just buffs, right? Because we're just buffing constantly.
If you care about being like politically correct in the gacha gaming sphere, never use the word nerf. Always use the term damage tweaking or adjustments. Because the second you put nerf on a video title or anything, people will just flame you. It doesn't matter what the video content is. The first comment will be, "This guy wants nerfs. Fuck this guy." It literally doesn't matter what you put. You could put "I want to nerf units in Epic 7" as your title, and the whole video you talk about buffing units, and there would be still a handful of people that would go comment on your video and say, "Fuck this guy, he wants nerfs." And not even watch the video.
Watching the video before they comment.
Oh yeah, that's why Champ Zerato's not a nerf. I correct people when they say that it's a nerf actually, and it's a bug fix. It's a bug fix, not a nerf.
It's a very shitty bug fix because they left it for so long, but it is a bug fix nonetheless.
Yeah. I don't know if this was a question, but I see a lot of people asking about Abyssal Crown. Do you think that Abyssal Crown should be nerfed? And I'm guessing they're saying that it should not hit on miss.
No, I don't think Abyssal Crown itself should be nerfed. I think all artifacts should be adjusted in that sense. No artifact should apply on miss.
I completely agree with that.
If you ever seen me miss with my Cerise or my Athletica and still defense break the enemy and then one-shot him with a different unit, you know how infuriating that is as the player who gets fucked by that?
I like hitting on miss.
I think the only character that should work on would be Dizzy, and that's because you can't not miss on her S3.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the only time that should actually come into play. Yeah, and that's actually probably why, because they coded it and they're like, well, if it misses, I actually don't think they probably did change it just for Dizzy, but still, no, I do think that artifacts triggering on miss is really dumb.
I beat people's MLV because I have Sierra Ren on like 2 of my units, so I just like sleep him every turn, right? Like it's ridiculous. Like I fought Deity and I fought you, I think actually, and I was just like my MLR was just like sleep silence, sleep silence, sleep silence every turn because she just hits Sierra Ren every turn.
I don't know. I'm on the fence, I guess, because I do use a lot of Abyssal Crown. And it's become something that I feel like if they changed it now, the community would become jaded. I think it would drastically change the game and how it works, but I don't necessarily know if it would be positive. I know that it feels bad to, like, get Abyssal Crowned on miss, and you're just stunned, right? It's like a really feels bad moment. But at the same time, if you were unable to do that, I feel like a lot more units would be terrifying. Right? Because you wouldn't be able to unilaterally strip them with Ilella's Violin or like stun them with Abyssal Crown or something like that. You don't have those checks in place, so I feel like some things would just like run rampant, right? Because like, what do I do to ML Violet with a control team if I can't fish for an Abyssal Crown proc? I'm already like fishing on that 30% or 20% if they're max Violet Talisman. It just makes it that much harder to fight some units, right? So
I mean, I also think that using RV as the example shouldn't be the example because it's an extreme outlier, and I also think that RV's kit is a mistake
because it's so RNG based. Or
I think evasion focused design in the game is a mistake.
They keep adding more evasion though. They just
I know, and I think that every single push towards more evasion based is a mistake because it's going to cause more frustration for players. And it's going to cause a lot more strength in artifacts. Mm-hmm. It basically reinforces how strong artifacts are, right?
Yeah, because they are build defining in a way. They are match defining, right? They're an important part of your kit. What are you deciding that you want your unit to do?
Is Euphine an example of a balanced evasion mechanic, though? I don't think so. I think the reason she's considered balanced is because the majority of her kit's not actually that strong. She's really good at one thing, maybe 2 things, and that's kind of it. She's like, I guess if you build her for the AoE stun on skill 1, but that's like such a small chance, and you have to build her with the effectiveness, and you also have to like lock her into that one role, and then the other role is like she's good against Bazaar.
Also, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a resistance check on artifacts, correct?
There it's
Yes,
Yeah,
there
yeah,
is.
yeah. That's what I believe.
that's
yeah.
why I'm saying you need to have effectiveness on that build as well, right?
Yeah.
And then the other thing that people are talking about too is like the design of artifacts being for one unit is really shitty too. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know why Champions Trophy. It's very anti. Like in the description of Champions Trophy, it's like, oh, you wanted to put it on Purgus? Nope, doesn't work on counters. It's like
Yeah.
only first skill, no dual attacks, only for Euphine. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
eh.
Well, like, and who do you use Spirit's Breath on besides Oxlots?
Yeah, you can just go on.
Yeah,
Ox.
that didn't even come out for Oxlots.
Yeah,
No,
it came
that-
out for
it came out for
Lilica,
Lilica.
and you don't use it on Lilica. It's not good actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the moment I saw it, I was like, wait, did they not think about like Oxlots when they made this artifact? I'm like, this is gross. I'm like, he's the only person that you're ever going to use this on, but it's still disgusting on him.
Champions Trophy is pretty much only for. I know this is ridiculous, but I thought about putting Champions Trophy on my Alencia for Gilware's defense just for RNG. But then I thought about it and I was like, why would I do that when I could just run Draco Plate and do more damage?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like, there's just no point, right?
I want to field one. I guess it was a statement, but I'm assuming it's a question. I need to read these, in a flexible manner. That somebody was saying, like, should the changes on ML Aura and Ball be reverted? And I think no, just because, like, one of the problems with ML Araminta was that she could cycle herself so ridiculously fast, and so you could skill 3 the enemy team, and because they, like, what the nerf was they decreased the amount of burns that she had, they added a turn cooldown to her skill 3, and reduced the amount of combat readiness she got from her skill 2.
I think they only.
Oh,
need
sounds
to
like
do two of the three
Tywin.
things.
Yeah. They only needed 2 of the 3, but if you talk about unnerfing it, you're stunned the entire time. I saw like a YDCB video where he like stunned the Guild War team, and they got unstunned, and he was like, "You stunned again. It doesn't matter. Like it, you're just completely locked down with one unit, right?"
I mean, he's entirely right. If I run a 280 Athletica and a 290 Cerise and a 270 Amalara, you will literally never ever get a turn if you leave her up. You have to ban her every single game.
Mhm.
She becomes the new like force banned unit. She entirely becomes ML Tywin with no soul burn.
Yeah,
And she's
yeah.
a mage, so it's even scarier,
She
right?
has
Because
Abyssal
she can
Ground.
she's skilled. So even though like you can use the Rowana against her because of the CR boost, like it doesn't really matter because you can AoE people with your artifact every single turn,
Mhm.
right?
ML Tywin is a very, very strong unit right now. I'm not going to underplay ML Tywin, but I think the only 2 differences is that, one, if you're going to do the soul burn rotation in RTA, you either need a book holder, which is hard to bring on night teams, or you need to wait until turn 2 and actually get that lockdown off, which gives your opponent a little bit of time. And then the second thing is that it's only an 80% chance. And ML
But
Aura
it's
has
slow
100%.
debuff too.
Yeah, slow debuff as well.
Slow debuff is stronger than the CC stun itself because slow debuff is 2 turns, right?
Mhm.
And so 2 turns slow debuff drops 30% speed, which is your total speed. It's not your base speed. Slow debuff is probably the second best debuff in the game.
How would you
Versus
balance
like,
ML if you were to balance ML Tywin? How would you balance ML Tywin?
I would make him not a knight. It's easy.
True, that would nerf the mess out of him.
It's
Actually,
literally,
adjust.
if he wasn't a knight, think about how much more fair he would be.
Yeah, it will make him
Yeah,
a
he
warrior.
can't be a knight and he can't be a mage. He has to be a warrior. He has to just be a warrior, like
Yeah,
all the other
he's a
shitty units.
Yeah, that he gets no artifact. Yeah, hey, that's the balance. Hey, make him a warrior.
Right. If you make ML Tywin a warrior, he loses a lot of strength. And if you change the soul burn to 30 to 20, it would also be kind of fair. Or just, change the soul burn entirely off of the skill 3 and make it skill 1.
Yeah, then he wouldn't be able to rotate turns as much. Yeah, that'd be a lot nicer as well. I think like I've never seen a class change before. That'd be a very interesting adjustment. But if they just changed the soul burn or made it 20 souls, right? Because I think it's very, very powerful for a 10 soul burn for you to just be able to rotate like that. Does anybody else in the chat have any other questions that they want to ask? Anybody here as well? Oh, Nerdy is asking, what do you guys think about the speed RNG on the CR bar?
Don't ask me that question.
Yeah, I'm not a-
I
not
don't
a
think
big fan
anybody
of
likes it.
speed RNG.
Ooh, yeah, it makes everything so much harder. So much harder. It honestly,
If
it'd
you
be so
keep
easy
it,
to build
make it
units.
smaller.
You said what?
If you keep it, make it smaller. Like plus minus 5% is too much. I think plus minus 2% is manageable. But the fact that like to perfectly speed tune my units, they have to be 11 speed apart. It just reinforces really fast attack bar pushers.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's why even today, like Athletica's still pretty good, whether it's Arena or RTA. Like she's not like insane, the best unit you have to have her, but like it's just really, really strong, right? And if you're pushing even further speeds, you need even more. So like when I said the 290 Cerise, 280 Athletica, you actually need 290 Cerise, well, this Athletic can be whatever, but the MLR has to be like almost 15 speed difference because of the percent difference.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. Yeah, it kind of gets out of control as you get to the higher speeds. I don't like it specifically because I'm running control and all of my units, like I have to have like my first round strippers, and then I have to have my Mui in a separate bracket because she has to go after the strippers but before the other stunners. So now I've created this artificial like 22 speed gap that has to be in between my initial strippers and then my like fire tenebria and stuff like that. So it's kind of just like ridiculous that I have to stack it in this way. I get a new piece of gear and I'm like, okay, well I can't use this because I need a new piece of gear for all 6 of my units to be 1 speed faster, or I just can't upgrade, right? I had to put off reforging my tenebria until very, very recently in order to keep the speed tuning correct. Arrow had a question. Everybody loves to talk about energy. What do you think about energy being so expensive? And I will field this question. Oh, well, I'll field this question first, and then I'll let you say what you said, either reiterated what you said on Car Stream, because I didn't see that. I think that it's hard because the monetization in the game, I feel like, is more like energy and mystic focused. And so it's kind of like summons are a lot easier. I'll put that in quotations. They're a lot easier to get. You have guaranteed pity and stuff like that, unless you're fishing for an artifact. That's the only real like RNG that you have to get. But there has to be some form of like monetization. I don't know what they could do to help like alleviate some of the stress that players feel with the energy. And there's a big rift in the community. I see that J-Babe said like energy is fine. You know, some people are like energy is fine. Other people are like, well, unless I bust out the wallet, I can't farm forever, right? And I think that was one of the things that was interesting about Summoner's Wars, that you could just farm forever, right? On like tower crystals, or like if you really, really, really farmed hard, you could like siege farm or stuff like that. There's not anything like that in this game. There's no way that you can get some additional sky stones or leaves or stuff like that from playing the game.
What do you think, Shotgun Shogun? Curious about your take on this. I've never heard you talk about it before.
I'm a huge whale. I spend the vast majority of my money on just farming gear.
Are you comfortable sharing like your regular amount spent?
I mean, like per month, I buy all charm packs, all leaf packs, mola packs, and then usually just the first bookmark pack, and then special packs that come up.
So like 800, and then every other or every third month it's 1,000.
Yeah, probably.
Okay, that's actually on par with like I think most people who spend a decent amount in the game.
Yeah,
because you're not really spending on summons. You're spending on energy, which I think is super efficient. So like I applaud you for
pretty
that.
much. Yeah, that's pretty much what I spend on. Now, do I think that it would be better if we got maybe double the daily energy we get, or the refresh rate was a little bit faster? I do think that for the more casual spender or the free to play, it would actually be a bit better, because I mean, if you're not dropping that type of money, you're not catching up to to me, and I'm not even like an omega whale. I know people that spend 3-4 times as much as I do, and to farm nonstop. And I mean, do I think that you could take like that you should make it basically endless farming, so that you could just set up a macro and farm Wyvern 13 24/7, 365? I don't know. I think that if you're going to do that there should be some sort of monetization, or like something along those lines. But like Kaz was saying, it is a lot easier to pull characters in this, and the real kind of money sink, in my opinion, is actually the energy. That's where they get a lot of it. Because I mean, especially in Wyvern, right? If I farm Wyvern nonstop for like a couple of weeks, I'm going to come out with like a fair amount of mystics, bookmarks, stuff like that as well, to the point where like a lot of times I don't even have to really buy too much of the bookmark packs, unless it's like obviously a limited and I'm trying to triple S or pull for the limited artifact and get 3 triple S characters before I get 1 copy of the artifact. But that's a whole other topic. But I do think that they could tweak it up a little bit, but not make it endless farming.
So I kind of agree with you when you said the monetization. I think the monetization is a big factor with the release of Pity and then the refunds, the half refunds on everything. That was when the monetization changed from summoning to energy, right? Which is why I think that they should alleviate the cost difference by releasing so many skins, right? If you're going to remove monetization one place, you need to re-implement it somewhere else. Or you could just implement it somewhere else first and then alleviate it elsewhere after, right? But that's very hopeful for different things. I do think that the biggest issue with people complaining about energy is not actually us. It's not the people who spend on the game and who farm a lot. It's the people who don't spend on the game and want to like be able to do stuff in the game, right? And I think that I've wrestled with a lot of different ideas. People have always talked about making gear easier to roll. I hate the concept of charms. I think charms are absolutely stupid. I think we should just use gold. I've been playing Summoners War for years. We should just use gold, right? But besides that, or even like feeding gear is just so inefficient, so expensive, but I have to do it because I need the experience for my gear, right? But I think that the idea that I finally come to, and I think this is the best idea out of all the ones that I've thought about, and that I've discussed with other people. I think that reducing the amount of energy required to complete a side story by half is more than enough to always give people enough energy to play the game.
Yeah, side story costs way too much to finish. It's actually kind of ridiculous. Because when you have a side story, it's either, especially for people who aren't, just buying refill after refill, which I think that refill should absolutely refill your entire energy bar. I think that it's stupid that it doesn't. But when there's a side story up, it's, do I finish the side story or do I go farm hunts?
It's also just really time consuming too, right? Like not everyone has the time to complete all the side stories, especially the 3-week ones back to back. Like that's rough, man. That's a lot of work. Like I prefer the jigsaw ones where it's like complete blank mission, because you can do those at any pace, right? Like I do the whole thing in one day, only crafting gear. I just only craft gear and I complete the whole thing in like
and you can refresh it. And I like those ones too, because it's just like, oh, go kill Wyvern 5 times. And I'm like, oh, well, I absolutely will, because that was what I was going to go do anyways. But for some reason, a lot of people don't seem to like that, which I thought was really weird. But
so, a lot of my EXP is farmed during side stories, right? Because unless I'm going for like a catalyst or something like that,
I never farm EXP outside
don't?
of side stories. Not at all.
Oh, outside of side stories, yeah. So if it was all jigsaw puzzles, then I'd be like, okay, well, I gotta go get that lesser EXP.
Oh, I would never. I wouldn't even bother. I would just use Stigma for penguins instead. Yeah. What's the point?
Well, you gotta get that friendship now.
I get friendship doing everything else in the game.
True.
You run 3-man hunt teams, you farm friendship now. See, before I hated running 3-man hunts because I was like, why don't I just farm faster? Like, why do I need to level up fodder for units I'm never going to build? Now I'm just like, I'll just friendship farm on that 4th unit. Just put them in there with no gear and give them like a card of small miracles or something. Or like I don't know, like a Midnight Bloom is easy, whatever.
With that being said, I think that we had a lot of good discussion today. I'm surprised longer than I thought that it was going to be, but I know chat still has things that they want to talk about. If you do have other topics that you want to hear about, feel free to leave it in the comments down below. I want to take a minute and say thank you, as always, to Shotgun Shogun and to OnceInLuv for joining us this week on the podcast. You can find their info in the description as well. If y'all want to say any closing words.
Thanks everybody for watching. Go sub to Cafe Kaz.
Help this guy get more emotes in his first month. He just got partnered. Hit him up. Get those sick, nasty Tenebria emotes.
Thank you. There's more coming on the way.
Also, sub goal. He'll do a saxophone stream if we sub enough.
Yeah.
Sub
It's
goal,
true.
big sub goal, 1,000 subs, guys.
Epic.
True,
Epic
the
Sack
sack stream, dude. True. Well, anyway, as
I'm looking
always,
forward to seeing what you green screen into the back here.
well, if I chroma key that, true.
Yes.
Well, as always, this has been Cafe Kaz, and thanks for watching.